All right. Welcome, everyone. If you're watching on our Zoom webinar or if you're watching on one of our many live streams, then we want to remind you you can send in your live questions to today's show either via the chat box in the Zoom webinar or use the hashtag read around the world over on Twitter, and we'll see your questions there as well. On many of the platforms that you may be watching on our live stream. If you comment right on the post, if it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of the others, we'll be able to see those questions right then and there as well. It's that time to go ahead and start today's program. Welcome, everyone. Let's go read around the world. All right, welcome to Learn Around the World's Read Around the World, coming to you live today from Portland, Maine. You can see it's a pretty nasty day out there as far as the weather. Maine is the most northeastern state in the United States, and we would like to take a moment to acknowledge we're coming to you live today from our studio, and we are on ancestral land of the Wabanaki Confederacy. This includes peoples today still in Maine, such as the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Micmac, and Maliseet peoples. And if you don't know whose native lands you live on, such as this area of the Wabanaki Confederacy, we highly encourage you to use that tool, native-land.ca, one of our favorite tools here at Learn Around the World to be a good global citizen. Come on the left-hand side of your screen on this website, type in where you live. You can toggle on all the different native lands throughout Turtle Island. If you're not aware, North America is and has been called Turtle Island by many native peoples for a long time, thousands of years. So go out there and learn that information if you don't know it. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon. I'm just going to be here today as a moderator for our show because we want to go ahead and introduce our guest today, which is our guest author. Mr. Warren Landrum is a Globe-Trotting children's and travel book author. He has a lot of travel experience we can get to as well if we have more time after our reading. If this is your first time on the show for our Read Around the World, Mr. Landrum's going to read his book that he picked out to share with us today, and then it's going to be all questions coming from you live, so make sure you send in those questions and submit them during the show and as our guest is speaking. So without further ado, welcome, Mr. Landrum. Can you introduce yourself? Where are you today? And I know you wanted to share a little bit about where you grew up as well. So the floor is yours before we get to the reading.
All righty. Thank you, Brandon. And good afternoon, boys and girls. Good afternoon to all of my adult viewers as well. It's just a beautiful day here in Grand Prairie, Texas, where I'm at. And Grand Prairie is right between Dallas and Fort Worth in Texas. But the sun is shining, the leaves are falling from the trees, just a nice, crisp autumn day. So it's good to be here. And I want to, before we go any further, I want to thank all of you because I know you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with us on Read Around the World, and we're very appreciative of that. So now, before I get into reading the book, which I'm going to share with you, which is Always Be Your Best You, I want to tell you a little bit about me, give you a little bit of background information, because I think it's important when an author is reading to you, or if anyone's speaking with you, the more you know about where they came from, the more you can tell where they're coming from with their story or with the work that they're reading. So I just want to give you a brief background, 4 different points I want to cover. First of all, where I grew up. Although I said I'm here in Texas now, I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana. Now, some of you may have heard of Chicago, Illinois. Well, East Chicago, Indiana is a suburb of Chicago, and we're actually only about 25 miles or so from downtown Chicago. The house that I grew up in took about maybe 30 or 40 minutes to drive downtown. And this really helped to shape my background and my upbringing because by being that close to Chicago, it allowed us as kids, maybe in 2nd or 3rd grade when we were starting out, we'd go on field trips over to some of the various museums and other things like the zoos and aquarium that they had in Chicago. Now, these things were very educational because they allowed us to bring to life the things that we had read about in books. For instance, the Natural History Museum covered things, but the civilization, the birth of civilization, all the way from the caveman times, all the way up into modern times. And they had different exhibits that you could go in and see the various settings. The Roman civilization, the Mesopotamians, just these are the ones that come, the Egyptian civilization. things of that nature. All of these were covered. In addition to that, they covered the animals all the way from back in the dinosaur days up until present time. So that was a good experience in the Museum of Science and Industry they had, and the Planetarium, which was a building which, as you can tell by the name, is where they studied the planets and the stars. And the one in Chicago was actually the first one in the United States. And what I liked about that, it was very educational, because when we go in there, they had this big dome and they had it set up like the sky. And what they would do, they would make the sky go from daytime into nighttime. And as the stars got illuminated, you could see the various constellations forming. So again, this was a way of bringing to life some of the things that we learned in our science class in school, things of that nature. Chicago also had zoos and aquariums, just a whole lot of different educational things. So that's why being close to Chicago was instrumental in my upbringing, in my background. But the most important thing about where I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana, was the diversity that our city had. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with the word diversity, what that means basically is having many different people of many different backgrounds or cultures or races or colors all coming together and living together. And so we were very fortunate that we did have that. In my city, we had about 1/3 of the population was blacks, 1/3 was Latino, basically coming mostly from Puerto Rico and Mexican. And then we had about 1/3 of Eastern European descent, people from places like Czechoslovakia and Romania and Hungary and Croatia and Serbia and Poland, things like that. I had friends with, my best friend was George Henderson, Johnny Lopez was one of my friends, and I had friends with names like John Jurasevich, Milan Momcilovic, Slavka Sukovic, Mira Milosavljevic, Tony Zamersky, things like that. So we were what they called at that time a melting pot, because we had all of these different people living together in the same area. And basically the thing that we all had in common, all of us had someone working in the steel mills, because that was the big driving industrial force in our area at that time. And that was what really helped the economy grow. And so we were very fortunate to grow up into that. And like I said, they called it a melting pot, but I like to think of it as a gumbo. For those of you who may be familiar with New Orleans style soup, the gumbo, what it is, they put a lot of different ingredients into it, many just, all sorts of ingredients. But when it comes together, it's just one great, giant, delicious dish. And that's sort of what, if you have diversity, it enriches your community, because you're all just growing and learning from each other and embracing the different cultures. And so it really just helps everybody to become better. So that's one of the main things that I got from growing up in East Chicago, Indiana. Second thing really quickly that I wanted to talk about, Brendan, is reading. Reading was very important to me. Now, I always say to kids, like when I'm talking to kids like I am to you, to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. And I was very fortunate as a kid to have my dad as an example, because when we'd get up in the morning, the first thing he'd do was go out to the store, this busy corner drugstore, to get the newspaper from Chicago, the Chicago Sun-Times. Every day he would get that paper and have it at home and read it. And then in the afternoon, we had the local newspaper, the Hammond Times, delivered to our house. So we constantly saw my dad reading around the house. When he wasn't reading the newspaper, he was reading one of his books. He loved these Western books by this author called Louis L'Amour. So he was either always reading the newspaper or some Western story by Louis L'Amour. So I quite naturally gravitated and got my reading love from him. And I got so bad at it, sometimes when they went to put me to bed at night to go to sleep, they'd find me in the bedroom under the covers with a flashlight reading my books. Might be a comic book or a book about, whatever, but I would be reading. So I think one of the other things that was very instrumental in that, we were fortunate when my parents moved from one location in the city to another right before the start of second grade. The school that I went to happened to be right next to the library. And so I got a chance to pass the library every day on the way to school. And so quite naturally, I wound up spending a lot of time in the libraries after school. So again, this fostered my love of reading, and I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, to have all those free books right at my disposal to let me go anywhere I wanted to over the world. We didn't get a chance to travel a lot, but through the pages of the books, I could travel anywhere I wanted to go. And so the next thing that I was fortunate enough to have was, that's a picture of East Chicago right there. We're on the very bottom of Lake Michigan, as you can see on the map there where it says Chicago. But another thing, I was fortunate enough to have some great English teachers and some creative writing teachers in high school. And these teachers, I guess, saw something in my ability to write, and so they encouraged me to keep on writing. And to go along with that diversity that I was talking about earlier, one of my teachers, my best creative writing teacher, was actually named Miss Aquino from the Philippines. So again, we had the diversity and the enrichment of her coming all the way from the Philippines to teach me about creative writing. So that was pretty cool. And then the last thing that added to who I am today and to my writing and my writing abilities was the fact that I love to travel. Now, as a kid, we weren't exposed to a whole lot of travel other than through the pages of books, because whenever we went on vacations, my father was a big fisherman. So we'd mostly just go on fishing vacations around the Midwest, and we travel by car, whether it's places up in Michigan or Wisconsin or other places in Indiana, other lakes. But I didn't get on my first airplane until I joined the Air Force and went from Chicago down to San Antonio, Texas. So at that time, I started being able to travel a little bit around the world. I got stationed over in Germany when I was in the Air Force and spent a couple of years over there. So because Europe is so small, I got a chance to travel through quite a few European countries and experience those cultures. So again, this helped to shape who I am, and sort of it evolved into expressing itself in my later writing, some of which are in the travel series that I've written amongst the books that I've written. So again, just the travel and the love of reading, it seems like reading and travel are interlocked. And so I said I got a chance to actually experience some of the things I had written about and read about when I got to travel to them in person later on in life. And so I think I just wanted to give you a brief, overview of my background, so you'd have more of an idea of where I'm coming from when I start reading this book.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to send out a reminder to everyone. I know Mr. Landrum and all our authors always want to know where you're watching from. So let us know right now. Again, if you're watching one of our live streams somewhere in the streamiverse, then go ahead and use Twitter. You can use the hashtag Read Around the World. If you're in Zoom, let us know right in the chat. I have it pulled up. I can see it. Right now, Mrs. V's classroom is watching from DeWitt, Michigan, so quite near Chicago, over in Michigan. I don't know how close it is off the top of my head, but let us know right now. Also, because Mr. Landrum's already shared so much already that I'm taking away, and I'm a lover of museums myself. Let us know what kind of museums you all love out there. Are they museums of natural history? Are they museums of art, or so forth as well? And we also have Mrs. Torino's second graders, and they are from Bartlett, and they're about 25 miles west of Chicago. So lots of folks kind of where you grew up from.
Yeah, home people, yep.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into the reading. And I do want to bring this up, I guess, before you do start reading. And that is this cover. This is right inside the very first of your book. Let me go back here. Is this a note that you actually wrote to your granddaughter?
Yeah, actually, Brandon, yeah, it was. This is what sort of started and was the genesis for the book. It was a note I wanted to write something to her for her birthday, to give her something to, as a reminder for the rest of her life. And so I actually just wrote this little phrase, "Be your best you," back on August the 11th of this year. Her birthday is August the 12th. So my goal was to present this to her and just have it so she could have it as a token, to always look on and remind her. But then after her birthday was over and I started looking at it, I thought that maybe this is something that maybe other kids could be inspired by or be motivated by as well if they had it available to them, this type of message. So that's where this book evolved from, actually, that simple little notebook phrase that I wrote for Mia on her for her birthday.
All right. So are you ready? Are you ready to get started?
I am ready, sir. All right. And so before we get into the first page here, the dedication of the book, I think, well, first of all, I wanted to give props to the illustrator. My illustrator did a great job on the book. And there was a young lady named Amara Nabob. And as you can see, here's the cover right here. Here's the cover. But Amara, there's her name. She's from Pakistan, actually. So this is an international production. And the thing is, now the book is dedicated. It says this book is dedicated to those who are already being their best you and to those who are about to. So I think that pretty much should cover everyone. You should already be being your best you. Or if you want to strive to or encouraged to do so by this book, then this book is dedicated to you. And so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get started. So the book starts off with Mia's talking. "I'm tired of practice, Papa," Mia said, as she sat at the piano one day. "But if you don't practice, Mia, you'll never learn to play. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. When you do your ballet lessons and you plie across the floor, if you don't practice in the mirror, you'll fail at that for sure. But sometimes I get tired. I just want to go outside and play. Why do I have to practice almost each and every day? And there she is playing with the kids in the playground. It's okay to play outside, Mia. In fact, it's healthy for you. But you've got to have a balance in everything you do. Always be your best you. Okay? And now we're in the classroom. You mean like even with my spelling, when my teacher taught us to spell, and then I'd come home and work with Nana to make sure I did that well? Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Mia. Just try to make your practice fun. Then the more and more you practice, the easier it will become. Always be your best you. And you see Mia sitting there practicing and studying and thinking. Now we're at the swimming pool. But what about my swimming, Papa? Do I have to practice that too? I already can do a cannonball and swim up and down the pool. And there she is doing her little cannonball. You know, we just watched the Olympics, Mia, and those girls swam very fast. The practice that you do today will make sure your swimming skills last. Always be your best you. Alrighty. Now, you know one thing that I love, Papa, is to make paintings and do my art. I like to work with Nana, but sometimes we don't know where to start. And here you see Nana giving Mia the instructions. Mix red and blue to get purple, Mia. And Mia says, okay, Nana. She loves painting. Okay, for sure, you have to practice that. There's a lot to learn about art. And I know that Nana is willing to help. She really wants to do her part. I've seen some of your paintings, Mia, and I can tell from what I see, your painting skills are a gift from God. He has given you vision to see. You see shapes and colors and lights. You have a gift, no doubt. But you have to practice even that to make sure your flame doesn't die out. Always be your best you. Oh, I get it now, Papa, Mia said. For anything I really want to do, I have to practice, practice, practice to make you proud, and Nana and Mommy too. But I also want to do my best because it makes me feel good too. And I really like being the best. You know I don't like number two. I will always be my best me. And there's Papa saying, that's my genius granddaughter. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the text portion of the book. But what we also put in the book and included were some of the appendixes and some of the art, so you could see some of the things that Mia wrote. And so I'm going to put these up right now. Now this Appendix A is, as we can see here, this is just some of her artwork, a unicorn that she drew, and a flower or trees overlooking a lake, reflecting on the lake right there. Okay. And we have her, she says this is a llama. So this is something that she drew. Again, Mia's in second grade. She's 7 years old. And this is some more of her art here, some of her abstract art. Okay. And here's that tree again, the trees reflecting on the lake and the unicorn. This is the full-size picture of them right in the book, right from the book. Okay. And this is some bubble art Mia did. She actually did this. Okay, she did this one. Oh, can you see it? Yeah, there it is. With some bubble wrap paper, and she just imprinted it on canvas and did some additional lines and things to make this. So this is very creative. And this is a 7-year-old doing all of this creativity. And she also did this abstract here on the next page. Yes, there it is. This circular sort of a mosaic of just colors blending together into that circular black background. And just actually as a bonus, I'm going to show you guys something that's not in the book, but this is a piece that Mia did last night here for Christmas. She just created a Christmas tree. So again, she's always constantly striving to be the best her that she can be. And I think I'm pretty proud of her. I might be a little bit biased, but I think this is an excellent piece of art. And I think, yeah, we just have Mia here again, practicing at the piano, being her best so that she can become the best pianist that she can. And this is her grade card here, her report card showing academic excellence. You guys may not be able to see that, but I'll just read the grades. There's 95, 100, 95, 100, 100, 100, 100. And it's pretty funny because we were showing this to one of Mia's little nephews the other day, her little cousins, and he said, "You got a 95. What happened to the other 5?" So again, there's always room for improvement, even though she's already done some excellent work. So yeah, I just wanted to end this, boys and girls, by reading the bio that my wife, Mia's Nana, wrote about her, and this is also in the book. So this will be the last thing, and then we'll turn it back over for Q&A. It says, "Our 7-year-old Mia is the apple of our eyes. She was born Danae Mia Shackelford on August 12, 2014 in Arlington, Texas, to her parents, the late Dwight and Suzette, our daughter. But she has been Mia to her grandfather, Papa," that's me, Papa, "and since the day she was born." Yeah, there's the bio right there. "Mia is very outgoing, always smiling, and always wants to be a part of what's going on. For example, 'Nana, can I help you with that? Can I mix the cake for you? Can I flip the fritter?' Sometimes I'm scared, but I allow her to do so under supervision, and she does well. She's also very active in school. When I pick her up from school, she starts to open up her bag to show me her work the day and the week. She takes pleasure in showing me her math and phonics tests and telling me that she got 100%. At 3 years old, Mia took private swimming lessons. The following summer, we tried to take her back, but her response was, 'No, Nana, I can already swim.' And sure enough, she's improved on her own since then, and she's now swimming like a fish. Mia tells me that she wants to be a cardiac nurse like me. Excuse me. I tell her that she can be anything she wants to be. She has a heart of gold, is always smiling, is very polite, and is loved by all, family, friends, and teachers. All because she's always being the best Mia." And so, boys and girls and viewers, that concludes the reading of the book, and I'm now open for any questions you guys want to shoot at me. Go for it.
All right. So thank you so much for reading. That was amazing. I have lots of questions myself, but but I'm not here for me. All our students are, I'm sure they have plenty of questions. So just a reminder out there, if you are with us live, you're one of our classrooms, make sure you're adding your questions. And we had a couple folks join us as well. Let us know where you're watching from. We always love to know that information on the show as well. But send in any questions that you have, or let us know, how are you being your best you? Do we have any artists out there? We had lots of examples of great artwork on the show. So let's see. Alyssa would like to know, how old is Maya? I know you said it, but would you repeat?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, she's 7 years old. She just turned 7 on August 12th of this year. She's like 7 going on 70. She's so grown.
Oh, going on 70. That's too fast. Slow up.
I know, right?
And and so, how old are our classrooms out there? I know we have second graders, which would be around 7 or 8, right? Somewhere around the. And what grade is she in?
She's in second grade, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So imagine that, explorers, if you're watching out there. Do any of you have a book written after you? And if not, you need to get on your grandfathers. They said, is she in second grade? So yes, she is. All right, and as we are waiting, so I know that, so you mentioned your illustrator is from Pakistan. What was that experience working with your illustrator?
Right, yeah, it was my second time working with an illustrator across the pond, so to speak, because on the first book, Mia Goes to Jamaica, I'd also worked with an illustrator from the Philippines, and so it was very interesting. The first thing I did, there's a particular website out there where these different illustrators from around the world can post their works so that you can evaluate them and sort of see which one might be a fit for what, your book. And so I had checked out this site, and this young lady from Pakistan, her work was great. And I think the only thing really difficult about the whole process, or not really difficult, but it was just the timing, because obviously there's a different time zone. I think Pakistan wound up being around 8 hours ahead of the time here in Texas. So we just coordinated that. But we were very prompt, just communicating back and forth with emails. And she was quick to respond when I put in a request. She would submit. I gave her all of the text up front for the book and sort of told her where we wanted to go with the different scenes for each group of text. And she was able to get that, and we'd make corrections going back and forth via email. But it was very timely. And I think from the time I started, gave her the first text until we got done was only about maybe about a month, about 4 or 5 weeks. So it was a very quick turnaround. As a matter of fact, this entire book was the quickest one I'd gotten into productions, because as you saw with that note that I wrote on August 11th, today is this coming Saturday is December 11th. So in less than 4 months, we had the book ready for publication and in print. And the book release, the official book release for this particular book will be this coming Saturday, December 11th, exactly 4 months after the initial idea there. But yeah, working with the overseas authors, it's not really that challenging. And she had a good command on English, the English language, as did the first illustrator I worked with from the Philippines a few years ago when I did my first children's book. So it was really a pleasant experience, and I would definitely recommend it. If you can't find an illustrator close to home, there is a site out there. I'll actually tell the name of the site is Fiverr, FIVERR.com, and that's where all these different illustrators post their work, so you can evaluate them.
That's amazing. So I think a great reminder out there for everyone is, technology it can be like anything. There's pluses and minuses to things. So we encourage you all to get outside and physically play and physically visit locations. But when you can't, virtual is great. And, without this technology, there's no way in the world that you would probably be able to work with someone in Pakistan, and especially in this timely matter. And so another thing you brought up was, so this book hasn't even officially dropped yet? Are we getting like a first peek?
You actually are, yeah.
Awesome.
You guys are
and so we have our classrooms want to know, I guess following up with that question, is how many books have you written? They want to know what other books you might have.
Okay, yeah. This is my 10th book actually, and the first one that I got published was back in 2006. It was a poetry book called The Heart and Soul of a Black Man. And so my books go across different genres. I'll just briefly list the titles. The Heart and Soul of a Black Man. Then there's Let's Go Home to Indiana Harbor, which talks about the place I told you guys where I grew up in East Chicago. It's sort of a memoir category. Then I actually ran for city council here in my city in Texas back in 2013. So my third book was about that, Texas Politics Grand Prairie Style, Campaign 2013. Then I actually got a book, met with this NBA basketball player, Joaquin Hawkins. And it was funny the way I got hooked up to him. A friend of mine was a DJ out in Los Angeles. She had been interviewing him because they were thinking about doing a movie about his life story. It was so compelling. So she told him, before you do a movie, you need to have a book written. So she put him in touch with me. We wound up writing the book about his life story. It's called The Stroke of Grace. So that's, again, Joaquin Hawkins. And then I wrote 3 books in my travel series. As I told you guys, travel has become instrumental in my life. So I actually wanted to share some of my travel adventures through books. So I wrote 9 Days in 9 Days in Paris, The Journey Continues. 9 Days in Italy, The Highs and Lows of Driving Through Italia. And that was the first one. That was just based on some adventures and misadventures that my wife. Yeah, there's Italy right there. Some of the pictures you guys are seeing on the screen in the background from those. But and then 9 Days in Singapore. So that was part of my travel series. And then finally, I wrote The Corona Love Affair. I wanted to put a positive spin on some of the things we were going through over the last year with the corona. So The Corona Love Affair is my first novel, and it's actually set with a pandemic as the backdrop. And then I have my 2 children's books, Mia Goes to Jamaica, which again was about my granddaughter Mia, and it's an ABC book, whereas every letter in the book refers to something that can be found down in Jamaica or something that Mia experienced in Jamaica. And then my final book is the one, you guys, that I shared with you right now, Always Be Your Best You. So again, that's 10 different books across multiple genres. And I just pretty much write by inspiration when I get inspired to write something. For instance, the Mia Goes to Jamaica book, that I woke up in the middle of the night one night about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the words just started coming. And within about 2 hours, I had all of the book down on paper. And about 80% of what came to me through that, inspiration made it to the final cut. So it can take, the books have taken anywhere from the the 4 months of this one to go into production from up to about maybe a year and a half. So it varies depending on the book and the creative juices, how they flow.
Awesome. And so I'll go ahead and give all of our explorers out there watching an insider tip. We were actually originally going to do that book for this program, but we decided ultimately that would be a better book if any of you second graders have any younger brothers or sisters. It's a little bit for even younger kids than most of you watching here today. So that's why we decided to get this first look at Always Be Your Best You. That's pretty amazing. All right, so just a reminder out there, send in your questions if you have them over on Zoom, or you can use the hashtag read around the world as well. We'll see your questions there as they come in. Before we do get to those, we are going to give away a copy of Be Your Best You as soon as it's available. We're going to give it away to one of our classrooms that have joined us here today. And what do you think? You want to go ahead and do that giveaway now?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, we can do it right now.
Let's do it. So we're going to go ahead and let's see if we can. There we go. So we have some of our classrooms that are live with us right now, still on Zoom. And, well, your reward for that is you get a chance at this book. So let's see who's going to be our winner today. All right, and that's going to be Amy V's classroom. So Mrs. V's classroom, and they are the ones that are in DeWitt, Michigan. So congratulations to our classroom over in Michigan. You're going to get a copy of Be Your Best You. We hope you enjoy the beautiful artwork that's in the appendix from Mia herself and from the illustrator in Pakistan. All right. Before let's see, do you have a few more minutes to share with us?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, great. Well, again, if our couple classrooms that are still joining us, if you have any questions, don't forget, what's better than getting your question answered live from our guest speakers? And so we definitely want you to do that. I have a question. So I get this question all the time, and I'm not a great decision maker. I'm a Libra. It's hard for me to choose, and so I get asked this all the time. So I'm going to pay it forward. And even though I particularly don't like the question because I have a hard time choosing. What's your favorite place you've traveled to outside of the U.S.?
Oh wow,
it's a tough one.
I'm a Libra too, by the way. I'm a Libra too, Brandon.
There you go.
But yeah, so there's some. I think I'm gonna have to say, wow, Paris. I think I like Paris. I mean, because Paris just has so much to offer. It's called the City of Lights. And I've been there about 3 times on 3 different occasions. And as it happens, it was like 20 years apart each of these 3 occasions. So, but it's just a fascinating city. And I love just sitting, in the street corner cafes, just watching the people. And there's so much art. And that's Montmartre over in the Montmartre district. That's where the artists do your street corner paintings and whatnot. And of course, the Mona Lisa up in the Louvre right there you're seeing on your screen. And this is a view of the Eiffel Tower from the bottom, or underneath the Eiffel Tower, which a lot of people don't see. And so it's just there's so much to see and do in Paris. And I haven't even touched one. Let me give you an example. Just in the Louvre itself, the paintings are in such detail, and you come to appreciate these masters, these Rembrandts and Da Vinci, those guys. I spent 4 hours just looking at one painting, seeing how the story progressed in the painting from left to right as you're looking at it. So again, the Louvre is just, you could spend weeks in the Louvre itself. But it's just, Paris is a fascinating city. So hands down, I'd say, yeah, and there's a view from Notre Dame. We're looking at the gargoyles, looking out up in the towers, the Notre Dame, and there's the Eiffel Tower over in the background you're seeing right now. So there's just so much to see, just going up and down the Seine River. And amazingly, we got a chance to go up in Notre Dame before they had a fire there, which they had a couple years ago, and it sort of decimated a lot of the artwork up in there. But fascinating. Oh yeah, the Monet Gardens are outside of Paris, where Claude Monet used to live and paint. So Versailles, the palaces outside of Paris. Just a phenomenal, area, part of France. Part of
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that experience with us as well. So the Louvre, I definitely on one of my bucket lists. I have not been to France, and I cannot wait to go.
Yeah, you must go. Yeah, I mean, just there's the original Mona Lisa right there.
One thing that does surprise me about the Mona Lisa in particular, at least from my friends that have been there and my wife, when I see their photographs is, you always see it, up close and blown up and zoomed in. I'm always surprised when you see a zoomed out photo of people looking at it, how small it actually is. I guess I always envisioned that it was this big, giant painting.
Yeah, no, that's true, Brian. Because when you first go into the room, you turn this corner, you see, first thing you see is just a crowd of people in front of her. And then by the time you get up to the front of the line, you're right. She's really not that big, especially compared to some of the other paintings in the room. But her reputation is bigger than she is. But it's well deserved because she just has that enigmatic smile, and you sort of wonder what is she thinking. And it's such detail. He did a great job on that, and just it really makes you appreciate the masters when you see her in person. And she just, like I said, she's the main number one attraction there in the Louvre. Although they've got many, the winged Venus, there's just so many. I could go on, and I just love that place. You make me want to go back right now.
Yes, definitely is definitely hard, these days in the past couple years, with trying to get that travel time in, for sure. And so what's great about this?
Go to a book instead. If you can't go there in person, get a book.
I'm so glad you brought that up just now, because one of the things we love to do and that we like to do with Read Around the World, and this is our first season of it this fall, is that we get to connect to our to authors and to books, because as you mentioned at the beginning of the program today, and I can share my personal experience that I always, I grew up traveling through books, and I think that's how many of us are first introduced. And no matter if we get the privilege or not to visit some of these different places around the world, first and foremost, it's a very fortunate thing to be able to do. And then second, no matter what, we can always travel through reading, and we have such access to books. I know everyone watching out there today has a library in their school, and if you can connect online, you can touch almost any piece of text that is available for free out there.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. We're so fortunate.
All right, so it looks like our questions have toned down a tad bit. So I definitely want to offer this moment to, if you have a burning question that you want to ask Mr. Landrum before we do say goodbye. I don't have a whole lot of extra time myself, as I got to get to another program I have scheduled coming up here in a few minutes. So type now, or you will not get that question. Of course, if you come up with other questions, I'm sure Mr. Landrum would be okay with getting any emailed questions that our classrooms just had to answer. And of course, we're going to get that book out as well. And so we encourage all of you to be on the lookout. Even if you didn't win it in your class, maybe you can talk to your librarians and see if they can get it in your school. How cool would that be for everyone? All right, so I will say, or I'll just leave it as this. Is there anything, you shared so much with us today already, but if you have any parting words of wisdom, or just encouragement with reading or writing, if we have any inspiring writers out there, really anything, I will give you over the floor one more time, and then we'll say goodbye with everyone.
I guess, just the only thing I would want to say is to all of you kids out there, just never limit yourselves on anything. The sky's the limit. Anything that you want to do, if you work hard enough, and study, it's available, and the opportunities out there for you to do it. It's just because it's just such a big world. There's so many different things. One thing I would say, exposure to different cultures and learning about different people and their customs and cultures and the way they do things. That's one thing that can really go a long way toward enriching you, because the world has become smaller because of technology. We have all these different peoples that you're constantly running into, So just expose yourself, avail yourself of that opportunity, and learn as much about different cultures as you can. That's why I like travel, because when you travel, you actually can get immersed into some of the cultures if you're there long enough, and just learn about different people. And what you'll find out is the more you learn about people, you'll see that we're more alike than we are different. And so but celebrate the differences in different cultures, and just continue to grow and leave your windows open. Leave your thinking, have an open mindset when you meet different people and are exposed to different opportunities. So that's pretty much my closing words, Brandon.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And literally, you're speaking my mind there, and why I love what I do here at Learn Around the World. And as our explorers know, they are expert virtual explorers. And until they get old enough and they're out there traveling the world, make sure you come right back here to Learn Around the World, where we take you on virtual field trips and have guest speakers and introduce the world to us via reading here at Read Around the World. And until next time, it's a big world out there. So keep exploring. Bye, everyone. Have a great day, and keep reading around the world.
Bye, guys.